every few years it appears that we get a new Texas Chainsaw movie.
Uh-huh.
And today,
Texas of the Chainsaw?
today, we got another one.
Yep.
And it's called Leatherface.
Yep.
Even though there's already one called Leatherface.
Not to be confused with Leatherface. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3.
Yeah. So we got another Texas Chainsaw movie today. It's called Leatherface, and it fits into... I mean, we already established that this series has a convoluted chronology.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's the most confusing timeline of all time.
Yeah, there's like 5 different timelines and possibilities.
Yeah.
And this one is set as a prequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and subsequently as a sequel to Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was released by the same company. Now, we established in our previous Chainsaw video that I absolutely hated Texas Chainsaw 3D. It's a piece of shit, horribly written, and the only promising part was laid to waste. So there was some, trepidation going into this thing on my behalf. But what made me kind of comfortable was that the directors have established themselves in horror by directing one of the most memorable and most visceral movies of the last decade, a movie called Inside. But then more trepidation because the movie was shelved and there apparently were extensive reshoots at one point. Long story short, we finally got the damn release about a year late.
Yeah.
And then the theater release actually comes a month after a DirecTV release. So that's even more cause for worry. Yep. They didn't even have confidence to put this out.
It's going to be a limited release.
Yeah, limited theatrical.
With a VOD like a month after, I think.
Yeah. So all signs pointed to this being awful. The question is, was it awful? Was it not? Today we're talking Leatherface 2017 version. Let's find out what the hell's up with that. This episode is brought to you by Slimer, our mascot. But more specifically, it's brought to you by Slimer's ghost, which apparently ghosts have ghosts.
Just kind of happened.
Let me just get my little notes here, and we'll start this up. Let's start with the overall, your overall reaction to the movie. What did you think overall? First impression. Well, let's get that out of the way, and then we could go into spoilers. So right here up front, anybody that doesn't want to know any spoilers, we'll get the reaction.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm. That's it?
Yeah.
Pretty good reaction.
I didn't love it.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed this. And it was one of those things where it won me over once certain things clicked into place. But for the most part, it wasn't hate. It was just like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then once certain things came into play, I was like, okay, I'm on board to this. And then there was, but we'll discuss the nitty gritty of it. The general consensus so far with critics is more positive than negative. It has like an 80% at the moment, I think. So that's pretty interesting. It's definitely a market improvement over Texas Chainsaw 3D, which was fucking terrible. But let's talk about it. Let's get to the nitty gritty of it. What are some things you hated? And what are some things you liked?
I wouldn't say I hated anything.
Or disliked or whatever.
I kind of disliked the other two characters. The other two psycho characters in the movie. They kind of felt like Devil's Rejects ripoffs, which is funny because that's a
ripoff.
Inspired of,
Yeah.
But yeah, and they weren't necessarily like charismatic enough for me to like care for him.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I thought it was fine. I didn't hate it. I liked a lot of it. I think maybe the cops role needed to be a little bit more fleshed out. That's about it.
I didn't dislike anything from it, but I disliked one scene from it. And it wasn't because the scene sucked. It was because it made no logical fucking sense. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's a scene where they're trying to hide from the cops, and they hide in a cow corpse.
Yes, this made no sense.
And somehow, a huge fat guy and 2 other people of normal size fit into one cow corpse.
And somehow got in there neatly, super quickly.
So that made no fucking sense, spatially and logically.
Yeah, and then they kind of kept showing like the little gore of the deer, and it felt like They just put it in there to be like gross.
Yeah.
That scene. So yeah, I agree with you. That was pointless.
Yeah, that was weird. But other than that, I actually really enjoyed it. The characters that you're talking about, of course, they're not meant to be likable characters.
Yeah, but they're not like very interesting to me, at least.
Yeah, but like I said, ultimately for me, that they're part of the whole thing of where this movie was leading you, and ultimately when that became much clearer, then I understood their. I mean, I'm sure you did too, but I understood why they were there. There was purpose to them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I could definitely see people going, I don't like these guys.
Especially because you spend so much of the movie with them.
Now, I kind of maybe understand why people were, or the company was a bit anxious to release this or have confidence in it, because it's not like the other Chainsaw movies, one. And two, it's not strictly about what it says it's about until a certain point. Again, that point where you realize things. So anyway, if you don't want any spoilers, we're going to talk about that from this point forward. Long story short, we enjoyed the movie. I more than him, but we definitely didn't hate the movie, or he definitely didn't hate the movie. So if you like Chainsaw, go check it out. Definitely. If you like Chainsaw 3D, then you'll fucking love this piece of shit. I mean, this thing, because that was a piece of shit.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not, yeah. But anyway, okay, so yeah, that fucking hiding in the cow thing or deer thing, that was weird. It made no fucking sense.
It made zero sense.
But okay, well, let me tell you some more things I'd like before we get into the actual details of it. I liked that we get to see the family before. This takes place before the starts in 1955, so 2 decades before the events of the first one, and then it skips forward another decade to the mid 60s. But in this time, you get to see the family we've come to know because of part 1. So you get to see the hitchhiker, you get to see Drayton Sawyer, you get to see their mother, and you get to feel that bond of the family, that's so important to the themes of the original part 1 and even part 2, that weird psychotic bond that they have. And that ultimately contributes to the biggest theme in the movie that leads to the creation of Leatherface as a character. You also get to see cool little things like Grandpa, the house is pretty much the same. So that was all really cool just as a fan, as a fan moment, it was pretty neat for me. But anyway, let's any other specifics you want to get into of stuff you enjoyed or that pop out and
yeah, I agree with you on all that.
I particularly enjoyed
I like that, which is why I kind of found him a little disappointing in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I like the portrayal of the Cobb character.
Yeah.
But I wanted more of it and for it to be more fleshed out, because it kind of felt a little lacking. But I thought he could have been a really cool character.
Yeah, I think, intentional or not, he's kind of like a lefty Enright.
Yeah.
If he were not, the motivations are similar. But this cop, there's a sickness in him. His need for revenge has taken him over the edge into depravity. Whereas Lefty was kind of like a lovable character, despite how insane he went. This was kind of like Lefty and right dark. But yeah, absolutely right. He doesn't have as much screen time as I wish he did.
Yeah.
But what's there is very well utilized, and Stephen Dorff did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think it was more the placement of how he's used that I found a little weird. He comes in mostly towards the middle, towards the end, but then he's kind of gone for a little bit, and then he'll like pop in every once in a while.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I felt he was kind of a little bit not disappointing. I just wanted more of it.
Yeah, I understand that, and this all falls back into what I've been mentioning about the ultimate purpose of this movie, and I think that's why he was placed that way, and that's why these other characters took the forefront for a while. And you're either gonna like that, or you're gonna maybe not hate it, but kind of like you. You're kind of like, I don't know about that part. But the ultimate purpose of the movie is that it pulls the wool over your eyes for a long time until it, I guess, kind of reveals its purpose. I don't know how long you were
right away
led down.
I already knew. I knew right away.
Did you cheat? Did you?
No, I knew right away.
You knew that this character was gonna.
Pretty much.
That's weird, but anyway, I didn't.
I was like, oh, these are obvious, kind of red herrings in here, and I kind of got it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it'll be as easy for someone to isn't kind of wise to, or But I thought it was pretty obvious. I was like, this character's way too like likable right now for it to not be him.
Yeah, I mean the biggest red herring is that the character that the audience is led to believe is eventually Leatherface.
Yeah.
Uh, Fits the physical and behavioral structure of the character as we know and love him. So that was particularly ingenious of the directors. They took what was there and led you into that supposition. So either you are going to be led there or you're not. So if the audience is in the frame of mind of this character's Leatherface, then I could see, like I said, I could see maybe the trepidation of the studio releasing this because you don't get that. But that's why it paid off for me in the end a lot better for me, because when that is revealed, so to speak, and you find out that the other character, Jackson, is actually the character of Leatherface, a lot of stuff clicks into place a lot better, and it's intentionally done that way. So
I think maybe I didn't have that same like, oh, this is cool feeling because I got it so quickly.
Yeah,
I was like, oh well, that's the character, and a lot of the movie does play with it like, oh, who is it, or like it's this guy, you know what I mean? And then the reveal is kind of like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, but I was like, oh, it's him clearly.
I mean, well, we'll talk about what made you realize that. I mean, I was really blindsided by it because I really thought, I mean, they did a good job. I don't know if you'll agree with that or not. They did a good job in establishing the idea that this guy was going to be that and this guy was going to, because again, these other characters had so much time up front that it was, you know, it kept me wondering anyway where exactly this was going and why this was going this way and not that way, right? Not in a super complex, you know, oh, look at me, I'm in the dark kind of way, but just in an interesting way, in a good way. But, yeah, anyway, oh, it's suddenly raining. That's weird. But anyway, I do believe that the movie maybe would have been a cooler movie if it was more about the family's intent to get Jed / Jackson back. But that's not the movie and what the movie was, and that's kind of good because I have a script idea for that, so good. But at one point I was like, is this going to be, you know, it's kind of weird because the beginning of the movie leads you to believe this is what this movie is going to be about, and then it switches focus to, you know, Leatherface's character is taken away from the family and put into what basically amounts to like a prison for troubled youths, basically, right? And anyway, and then we change focus to this, and that's where I was like, this is an interesting thing because we get to see this Jackson character, which ultimately is revealed to be Leatherface. He's compassionate, and he doesn't show the signs that a person born in the environment that he was born in would show. And instead we got this bigger guy that fits the physical frame of the Leatherface character, you know, behaving the way you expect him to. So, you know, they did a good job in that, I think. I don't know if you found it overly bearing or obvious.
I thought it was, honestly, for like a second, I was like, oh, is that gonna... But then when they introduced the character, I was like, oh, it's him. Because...
Which character?
Jackson. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, there's some stuff earlier on where they show his, like, his hesitation to, like, you know, be evil in the beginning, which I thought fit exactly the character later on in that. So I was like, oh, it's him because of that. You know what I mean? Like, he has that like kind of like violent streak, but then he like kind of regrets it right away, and he stands up to people. So I was like, oh, it's him. And then it became even more and more obvious that bigger guy was just like a little red herring, and then so were the other two, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's the interesting thing is they both exhibited the same behavior in some ways. Only the bigger guy, the would-be Leatherface, if you will, of course, fit the type that we're expecting, right?
Yeah.
So they both did, and that's why I guess I was so pleased, you know, because that guy did, and it was kind of like I was expecting that moment when Leatherface would become Leatherface, and all the little false clues were laid out for both of them in a way, and then ultimately it was that. But it was a very pleasant surprise for me. But anyway, let's get to it. The characters, any that you didn't like, any that you did like. I know you already said you weren't particularly keen on the kind of like psycho Bonnie and Clyde thing.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't bad. I just didn't really click with me. I thought it was, like I said, it kind of felt like those rejects, only not as well done. And then I even thought the cop plot was gonna head in that way, you know, but it didn't, or it kind of didn't. So that was good. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of those two characters.
Anybody else that didn't chime?
Not really.
Anybody that you think is particularly great in the movie?
I think the cop could have been really good if he had more time, but I really liked what he did anyway. So he's cool. I liked the mom. She was good. Yeah, they're both those two. I think were the standouts for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on all of that, except that I actually enjoyed I mean, despicable as they are, I enjoyed the kind of, psychotic Bonnie and Clyde kidnappers. Again, they serve their purpose, it doesn't take a genius to know what the purpose is. Basically, they're used as a parallel, they get, or I should say an opposing parallel to the the red herring Leatherface and the real Leatherface, and it gives them sympathy, whereas these guys are just degenerate scum, basically. So they serve their purpose, but yeah, they are hard to like, so I could see that.
And they kind of help and kind of, I guess, making you blind to the fact that he's...
Yeah, they're a good distraction.
Yeah,
anyway,
but yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I really wish I could have seen more of Lily Taylor as Verna, as the mother of the family, because that would have been fun. But it was just a pleasure to see little things like I said previously, Drayton and the hitchhiker and stuff like that. And again, yeah, like you, I think, man, I really wish I could have seen more. But I think ultimately that's a good thing, because it's not they weren't there enough. It was like I just want to see more. That would be cool if I could see more. I mean, at least for me. I don't know. But anyway, aesthetically speaking, the lighting and stuff like that, it falls more in line with what's been established, kind of oddly enough, kind of in like the Michael Bay.
It's got like that brown
produced, Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
brownish look, blue at night.
Mm-hmm. So that was interesting.
Yeah, occasional parts look a little cheap, but for the most part, it looks fine.
Yeah, I think it fit the tone exceptionally well, the lighting. So despite the fact that it doesn't look like the movie it's supposed to be a prequel to, and who cares if it looks like Chainsaw 3D because it sucks. But yeah, it fit the tone of the movie most of the time. It did definitely give it that dirty, gritty feel a lot of the times, and so that was fine. I actually really enjoyed that. Did you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the. I actually didn't notice the score that much in this movie.
I did. It was good for the most of the movie, but there was occasional moments and like occasional downtime moments where they had this weird little like Texan twang, which I found kind of annoying.
I noticed that. It was particularly present in the like cop sequences and stuff like that. Yeah,
but it was fine. I mean, it wasn't bad.
I mean, I guess it doesn't stand out. It's not terrible. It just suits what is going on.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not bad though.
Okay, let's talk. Finally, the big one, I guess. Effects in this movie. Now, it is a pretty grisly movie, but I think it's spaced out enough so that it doesn't feel overwhelmingly visceral. Like a good example of that would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is pretty gruesome from point A to Z. But mind you, it earns those stripes to do that. And this one, it was relatively spaced apart.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that effective? Did you want more gore? Did you want less gore?
I thought it was good. I thought the gore was fine. There was some stuff that looked really good. In fact, I would say most of it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't feel a need for more or less. It was well used, I thought.
I expected more. Not that I wanted more, but I expected more considering the filmmakers. Inside is one of the most visceral and grueling experiences I've seen, but they actually kind of held back and used it in the right spots.
Yeah.
And
there was only like one part where I was like, all right, stop. And that was the deer thing. or horse or whatever it was.
That was
cow.
just, again, the deer thing is just, or cow. Yeah, it was a cow.
Yeah.
Just like, wow, how do they fit in there? Damn it!
Yeah,
but anyway,
and then like there's before that they show a lot of like the magnets just crawling around. You're like, all right, dude.
I mean, that kind of fits in what's going on in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, the lingering shots on like the armadillo and the I mean,
it's just weird in this movie though.
Yeah. The effects were pretty good throughout. A lot of physical effects, which was very pleasing to see. Some enhanced by CG here and there, but not many. There was really one scene only where the CGI enhanced blood was a big thing. Or there was two. One of them looked really good, and the other one was a little spotty, but it's fine, But more other than that, you get pretty much physical effects throughout. And they look pretty good. Again, placed in the right spots. Some very uncomfortable. A good example is at the end when Leatherface has, become who he is to be, and he finally gives up hope on, anybody but his family being there for him, and he just takes out his rage on the sheriff, and the fingers and the chainsaw to fingers. It makes me cringe. But anyway, yeah, overall good effects. Anything else you want to say about the movie, or you want to give it a final rating?
I liked it. I did find it a little weird. I mean, I understood why it was done, but I found his change to full Leatherface a little weird, like super fast, especially considering how his character was developed up to that point. I mean, it makes sense, mind you. I just found it odd how quickly he was like, all right, I'm Leatherface now. It makes sense, but
Leatherface as in at the point where he's making the mask at the end?
No, or? Once he's like, all right, I'm going to kill this cop here. And, it just kind of goes full on mute killer.
Okay.
I found that a little kind of weird. It makes sense, mind you. I just found it a little abrupt and kind of odd. But, they explain it well, so that's fine. The guy had, he was lumbering around. He was pretty good looking. He does look really short in the beginning of the movie. And then suddenly he's like this walking around. He's got like freaking insane tank feet all of a sudden, which was weird again. But I get why they did it, so it's fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. I could see the abruptness, but again, like you said, they do set it up and explain it pretty well, and it fits into like kind of. I don't know if you remember in the original Chainsaw when he shows these scenes of rage and indecisiveness, and they're always kind of like I wouldn't say confusing, but without context, they would be confusing to somebody that's just seen that particular scene. But of course, if you see his relationship with the family, and that he does show. Even Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, he shows like compassion and interest in others that are not his family. So I thought that was a really cool kind of like retroactive way of saying the same thing, and that kind of added substance to that particular shift, I guess. Because he felt betrayed by everybody at that point, and again the family. That's why it's kind of like an odd place to be, because I wanted more of the family, but they did actually come in at the right spot. To really kind of elaborate on that feeling that he was going through, especially when the chick waves down the cop and then, and he's really losing his shit over, what was his name, Bud, being killed. You really see the basis for that.
I think if that little scene wasn't there, it would have been a problem.
Yeah, it definitely would have.
Because that little scene kind of explains it.
Yes.
That being said, but that's why I found it so weird, because it's explained by one little scene. It's done well, but it's really fast,
But again, and it all traces back to the character psychology, and I really enjoyed that. I was one other thing I was gonna say, and I forgot what the fuck it was, so I guess I won't say it.
All
but
right.
Anyway, overall, I give this. I was really surprised by this movie. I really enjoyed it. Glad to see a good movie, unlike Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Glad that it didn't ruin Part 1, the original Part 1, and glad that I could see this Part 1 and I don't have to ignore Part 2, even though it's supposed, Part 3 is supposed to be the follow-up in this particular version of events in this timeline. But fuck 3D, I could still see this Part 1 and Part 2, so that's pretty cool. I would give it an overall like a solid 7.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable giving it more than that.
Yeah.
But I think a 7's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty good
It's
surprise.
definitely not. I still like the beginning more.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
a better movie.
Absolutely. I the beginning, you know.
Yeah, but at least it's not shit.
No, it was really good to see a good chainsaw movie. So yeah, if you're a chainsaw fan, definitely go check this out. Tell us what you think. Are we right or are we wrong? Do we suck on the schlong? This has been Ahab and the Goontick talking the new Leatherface movie.
Coming October 20th, I believe, right?
Yes.